I'm Joanne Banko, author, designer, and sewing educator. And I love wearing wraps, I love making wraps, I love embroidering wraps. I never leave the house without one in any kind of chilly weather, whether I'm going short distance or long distance. So I've got one for you today I think you're going to really enjoy. This is actually a variation of a little bit of a combine from some of the wraps from my book. I have 9 machine embroidered wraps in there. Each one is original. Each one has a specific measurement to cut. So this one's just a little bit modified. It's a really easy pattern. I'm going to show you how to make the pattern for the gray one here with the continuous embroidery. And the blue one is actually the piece that's already cut. So let's get started. First of all, I really am a fan of using pattern tracing cloth. It's already gridded with this. It's got 1-inch grid. I will tell you that it's not a scientific inch, but it's close enough for most of the designing that you're going to do with basic shapes. And I really just start by making a large rectangle. This one measures, I've actually got a measurement notation in the corner here, that it's 48 inches wide by 56 inches long. Well, my pattern tracing cloth comes on a 45-inch wide bolt, so that means I needed to add a few extra inches. No problem, I simply cut another strip, I overlapped it right on the grid line, and used a simple zigzag stitch. So you can make pieces very large if you need to. So let me tell you exactly how I made the pattern. I started, like I said, just with the basic sized rectangle, and I thought, well, all I need to do is create like a U-shaped opening there. So I drew a straight line up the center of half of the pattern. I'm only showing you half of the pattern. It's twice the size here with this big rectangle. Drew a line straight up, stopping at 27 inches, and then I drew just a little half circle with a compass. So I've got a piece already done here, and I'll just lay that right on top of there so that you could see I just have that little half circle going right around there, and then that whole U shape is cut out, that whole centerpiece is taken right off the pattern, and then you just simply lay it on your fleece and cut it out. So it creates that nice little neckline, nice little overlap. This garment is called a ruana, and it's just simply a cross between a cape, a shawl, a wrap. It's perfect for an added layer for, like I said, chilly weather. I never get on a plane without my ruana. It's almost like having a little comfort blanket. But adding embroidery to it is really fun. If you look at the ones that I've got here, I've got the embroidery on a fleece type fabric, which is comfortable to wear, easy to maintain, and it's very easy to sew. It actually looks quite beautiful plain, so if you don't want to add any extra embellishments at all, I think you'll like it that way. In a few minutes I'll tell you a little bit about some finishing techniques. But think about maybe adding just a trim. There's so many beautiful trims out there. You just simply zigzag or straight stitch it on. You could finish the edges. Some people even like to do, if you do crochet work, you could do a hand crochet stitch. Like I said, there's lots of trims. A very simple way to finish it is just simply to turn under the raw edge, a 1/2 inch, top stitch it from the right side, boom, you're done. Very, very simple. They make great gifts too. There's a lot of people that would appreciate just that little extra warmth. But I do like to add embroidery and I like to experiment with it. So let's talk a little bit about some different stabilizer options, because with the fleece, very often on a garment like this one, I'm going to refer to the gray wrap here for a minute, it's a garment that is very likely to flip and flop, so to speak, and you're going to see the wrong side. So I had the designs created especially so that they could be stitched on fabric like this fleece without a lot of heavy stabilizer. So I used just a wash-away stabilizer, and I'll show you that in a minute. But I also used a technique that I do very often when I think of something that's going to be reversible. I simply change my bobbin thread for every embroidery thread color that I use on top. Or I might use all one color and then use one bobbin color, so I don't have to worry about that flip side. If I've got something though more like this, where you're going to get a little more stress and strain with pockets, they're going to get, you're going to stuff things in your pocket, your hand's going to be in there moving it around a little bit, I probably want to add a little bit of extra stabilizer. So in that case then I will use a mesh style, and I'll just simply layer it with the fabric. I also then like to use a topping, and there's another type of mesh, but the type of mesh that you see here on the top is water soluble, so that completely melts away. But it helps lift the stitches just a little bit up above the fleece. So it gives a nice, crisp, clean look to the finished stitching. But for my ruana, I wanted it to totally disappear. I didn't want any stabilizer left over, and I wanted to prevent stretch. Take a look at this little sample of fleece, and you'll see, I pinned the right side, so I know the right side from the wrong side, but you'll see that it stretches a lot in one direction and only a little in the other direction. That's the direction that's going to be lengthwise wearing the garment. So that's where I did my embroidery area. So I know I'm not going to have a tremendous amount of stretch, but I need to limit it just a little bit. So I chose a water-soluble mesh stabilizer with an adhesive backing, and I simply layered that on and stuck it to the whole backside when I did embroidery, and you could see, no more stretch. That's a good thing. So my embroidery won't get distorted. So what I want to show you next is how you actually embroider a segment of a design and then continue on so that you've got continuous line designs. We need to move them over to the machine in order to do that. I've got 2 motifs already stitched. You can do one at a time and do it in a 4x4 hoop. You could do a bigger hoop and stitch more than that. But 2 is a good, nice, comfortable amount to stitch at a time. So I've got 2 already programmed in. I've got 2 stitched, and I'm ready to do the second ones. How do I link those 2 end to end together? Well, truth be told, I probably could think of 6 different ways right off the top of my head. In my book, I outlined 3 different ways, and very easy ways. You don't have to have anything special on your machine in order to do it. Basically, what you need is some sort of a template, some sort of a life-size piece that shows you the size of the design. The main point is where they're going to connect, so the width needs to match. So that could even be done with graph paper. You can get graph paper in inches. You can get graph paper in millimeters. You could print templates on regular paper, cut them out. You could print templates on transparency. I've just printed on regular paper. So I'm going to go ahead and put the hoop on the machine. I've connected the template so that it's matching perfectly with the previous design that I stitched. And I did that by using the grid that came with the hoop. So that marks my center. And I lined up the center of the template with the center of the grid markings, and I'm good to go. I can tweak that a little bit by testing it. You'll see that in a minute. So let's get this on the machine. And you want to think about, where your designs are going to come from. Well, my designs were all on a CD-ROM. So I simply used my computer to transfer them to a USB, and now my designs are on the USB. So let's go ahead and dig into the embroidery mode and find my designs. They're on the USB. They're all in one folder there. Turn down one page. I have a right and a left, so I want to make sure I select the correct one. There it is there. And I've got 2 motifs, so I'm going to go ahead and set that one up, and I'm going to go ahead and add another one. And I'm just going to pull that from the same folder, same design. And you're going to see in a second here, they both are going to come up right on top of each other. So that's, that's something you want to watch for. You're going to need to touch edit, and you're going to move that down, okay? So I'm going to line those up until they are perfectly matched. And I'm going to go ahead and touch OK. I'm going to go, I got to move that a little bit. That's what happens when you get down a little too far. So let's get that in the center. We can be very, very precise with this. Take a look at how intricate that is. I can even expand that and magnify it so that I can make sure I've got those perfectly matched. I can preview it and see how that's going to look. Okay, perfect. Very good. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and go to embroidery, and I'm going to touch edit, and I'm just going to get that in the center. Now I need to find out where the top of that design is so that I can match it up. So very common on many machines is something we call a trial feature. And once I touch the trial feature, I can touch that center point, and I can see, is that lining up with the point where my arrow is? That is pretty close. I'm going to bring up this little light, and I'm going to see I need just to move that just a little bit and tweak that. Now I'm lined right up right there where my fingertip is. My arrow for my center point points to the edge, right where my previous design is, right where my next design is going to stitch. So it's a simple matter now of removing this template. I used a medical tape, so I've got that little bit of tackiness to hold it. And I'm going to lower the presser foot. I could also check a few other things. I could turn on the camera feature. It's all about what you have, the tools and the options that you have to use. A plain paper template, careful hooping, lining it up, even measuring and marking just using your center point is going to give you a good, accurate matchup. So, but if we've got extra little tools, we can use them, because I can see here, oh, even I could go down just a little bit more and I can see exactly where my needle is going to pierce. I can say okay, and now I am good to go, ready to stitch. Because my design is going to start somewhere else, generally speaking, other than that top center point. But by moving the hoop to show the exact point where those two link up, now I know when it gets to that top point, they're going to match up just right. You're the designer, so remember, you're in control. You can embellish, you can leave it plain, you can have a lot of fun and make a beautiful, warm wrap. Visit the website, we've got complete instructions for you. We'll show you exactly how to make the pattern, all the measurements are there, so you can make your own beautiful wrap style garment.